Recording in progress.
Okay, so officially welcome to Think Differently. Thanks for being here for those of you who are live. If you're on the replay, I've already told the live people, please feel free to comment and use the chat and all of that stuff. But if you're watching the replay and you want to interact in some way, I always just say, please know that the email that was sent to you with the replay, all replies to that email go straight to my inbox. So feel free to let it be a conversation in that way. Hit reply and let me know like what your insights were, what questions you have. I always pose also the option to say like, let me know if there's a topic that you want me to cover that this inspires for you, or maybe not, even maybe totally separate, but just if you have something you want me to speak on, I'm very much finagling these and planning these out based on feedback that you all give me. So let yourself be that person that suggested it. I just got one yesterday, a suggested topic, because I had mentioned something in one of these Think Differently's, and she was like, please, can you talk about that more? So please, let this be an interactive conversation, and we can just use technology in that way. Yeah, okay, so I just wanted to say that up front. So let me start by introducing myself. If you're new to me, my name is Laura Livingston. I am a business and a mindset coach, and I'm really passionate about working with people who are passionate about the work that they do. I noticed in my corporate career that part of what burned me out, even though I was, in hindsight, doing work that I enjoyed, I was just losing excitement and personal attachment to the missions of the big, huge organizations that I was working with. And so I just kept finding like, okay, I don't care about the bottom line of this huge bank. I need to find something to care about. And every consulting project I was ever on, every new job I ever had, I went to find either a person or a mission within the organization or a group of employees that I had decided was my thing, that was my reason for being here, so that I could feel like this was worth my time. And so when I built this business, that was my first sort of decision as a business owner was I'm going to work with people who want to be here, who feel attached to their mission. And I just find that personally, my fulfillment and my motivation, I get so excited by people who are so excited about their missions and where we're going, that I don't even care like what else we need to do. Like I'm just in. I just have learned that about myself. And I bet you probably resonate with that as well. If you're here and you're in my audience, you've probably already been weeded out if you're not. Or maybe you don't love what you do, but you want to, right? Like that's also something that I help my clients do. And so I'm a business and mindset coach. I typically work with people who want both the lifestyle and the work style to work for them in their business. And so what I find myself doing most of the time is helping people to run businesses that are healthier, more profitable, more sustainable. I'm very big on long-term, not just short-term, how do we get a quick hit and a quick win and a quick cash injection. I'm all for those moments when you're like, okay, we need to bring in more money this month. But most of the work that I do are with people one-on-one, where we are looking at the long-term, sustainability and longevity of the work to support the lifestyle that you want, to support the mission and the impact that you want to make in the world. Because I think if you're not enjoying your work, there's just really no point. And so that's what I do. I work exclusively one-on-one with my clients. I don't have any group programs. This is the closest thing I have to a group, which is a free one-off event. And I do also have some networking events if you're into networking and you want to network with people who are interested in having real conversations. You would probably fit right in, and you're welcome to join Real Connections. I went ahead and put the link in the chat. And my work too, and you're going to see this too as you listen to today's conversation, I'm always going to be focused on how do we personalize this to you. That's why I've chosen to just focus one-on-one, because I do feel that so much of business needs to be personalized and customized to our personal work style, our personal genius, the lifestyle that we're looking for, right? If you are a digital nomad or if you're a mom with kids, your business has to support that lifestyle. And we're going to make different decisions for you than we would for someone else. And for the record, I have both clients on my roster right now like that. And I really love the creativity of how do we make this work for you. And then it also has to align, strategically within your business. The strategy is really important, aligning that strategy to not only how you like to work and what you do and who your people are, but to the season in business that you're in. Again, different decisions we're going to make at different times. And that's just how I kind of operate. And so again, you're going to see either today's Think Differently or in any future. We meet, by the way, almost every single week here this same time for Think Differently, different topic every week. You're always going to hear me talk about things from both the mindset side, the lifestyle side, the personal side, and the business, because those two have to me, the way that I see the work I do is like those two have to be lined up. And if they're not, it's going to suck. Right? And oftentimes that's when people bring me on, is when one or both of those is a little bit off, and they're looking to sort of realign and get that balance. Okay, real quick before, because I never remember to do this at the end, let me just quickly let you know, and all the links are in the chat. I am this close to being booked up for the rest of the year. I'm already talking to people about January and even February start dates, but I still have a couple of spots left this year. So if you're looking for either an intensive, I do a 2-week intensive, generally focused on refining your offers, because that's most of the time the first thing I dive into with my clients when they bring me on full time. But it can be customized to you. So if something we talk about today or in a future Think Differently or a past Think Differently is sort of like a thing on your brain, we can customize those 2 weeks to you, because as I said, all my work is completely customized. And then my other program is just a typical 6-month coaching program, like most coaches, typical 6 months one-on-one. So if any of those are interesting, or if you just even want to start the conversation, as I said, I am planning ahead and I'm booking ahead. And I think that's always a really smart thing to do anyway when you're investing in something like coaching. And so if you're looking for a business coach, now is a great time to have either a free mini session with me, which by the way, you can just use whether you're looking for a coach or not. You can use that free mini session. The link's in the chat. And the link is also in the email that I sent you. Or you can just book a discovery call, and we can start talking through like what it might look like, even if we're looking at the future. I think that's all of my housekeeping announcements. Okay, so let's dive in. So the first thing, if you're live, I would really love to know, so today we're talking about what I wish someone told me about being a high achiever. And maybe you signed up for this without knowing today's topic, and maybe you signed up for this specifically because the topic drew you. So I would love to know in the chat, if you signed up because this was the topic you wanted to hear about, I would love to know why. Why does this topic feel important to you? Why was it something you wanted to spend your time on? Do you have questions you're hoping I'll answer? Go ahead and stick them in the chat. Do you have things that you're working through or pondering around high achievement that I can, because I will customize. I have more to talk about today than time that we have. So I always customize these conversations to those of you who are live if you have a specific question or to sort of direct the conversation. So feel free to put that in there in the chat. If you didn't know and you just signed up because you wanted to hear what I have to say, awesome, great. You didn't have to know that this was about high achievement. And regardless, I would love to know, what beliefs do you have about being, like, what is a high achiever? Like, what beliefs have you had to work through around that? Do you identify as a high achiever? Do you identify as like not anywhere near close to a high achiever? Like, what kinds of thoughts come up for you around high achievement in general, good, bad, or ugly? Because I would love to know. And again, I have a feeling you're not going to be alone, and I'll weave some of that into the conversation as we go. Okay, and I see a quick question. Yes, the links are going to be in the email as well. Yeah, great question. Okay, so go ahead. I'm going to leave you guys with the chat for a minute, and I'll just start kicking us off, and then I will periodically check the chat as we go. I have 4 million pages of notes, you guys, because I already know that this is, by the way, I'm going to touch on a couple of things today that each could be their own and might be their own Think Differently event on their own, or like even a 90-minute masterclass in the future. So know that I know that we're only going to scratch the surface, and I'm just going to like own that right now, right? This is never, we're never going to like talk through all of these things in 30 to 45 minutes. So just a little bit of context for why I picked this topic. This is a big one for me. This is a mindset piece that I have had to work through for my entire life in terms of what my relationship is to work. And so I want to just quickly context set a little bit, not only my story, but also where I think society and societal beliefs have been ingrained in us over the years, especially for women. If you're a man or non-binary or some other gender, you will also resonate with what I'm saying. But this is especially true for women. And so I'm going to talk both about the work piece and being a woman in the world, because society has kind of given us a double duty of some of these things. And so I'm not going to harp on that, but that is where I'm going today. But I also want to say I think everybody can resonate with this. I don't think you need to identify as female to resonate with some of what I'm saying, with all of what I'm saying, frankly. There was one other thing I wanted to say before I started. Oh, and so often when I do these, so much of my work is the blend between the practical, the business, the strategy side, and the personal and the mindset. Today is almost completely mindset. I do have some takeaways and action items for you at the end, because and that's how I see mindset too. We can only think about things in a vacuum so long, even with a coach or a therapist. Like, we have to go take action based on the beliefs that we want to create, and that's how we rewire our brains to believe things that we want to believe. And that's how we change limiting beliefs. Pretty much today is about mindset. So just to give you that perspective too, I often talk a lot more about business and strategy, and that's just not the predominant conversation for today. Okay, so a couple of pieces of context in my story, which you may resonate with some of this as well. And you may have heard pieces of this, but essentially, I started, if you got the promotional email for this event, I started by saying I never, until recent years, maybe the last three to 5 years, I never would have called myself a high achiever, ever, ew. And I want to really talk about why that is. Let me just fix this. I want to talk about why that is. And so whether you resonate with being a high achiever or not, or you're like me, it doesn't matter. This is going to serve you. But from my perspective, I grew up, like many of you, in hindsight, I did not know this about myself until well into adulthood, but I was a really creative child in a very structured environment. Very, very, very structured environment. And this is mostly today about school. So this is not like my parents. I actually had and have really great parents. This was more about the systems that I found myself in. So I went to a private school starting in the first grade, and I graduated from said private school in 12th grade with 82 little people in my class, my graduating class. Very, very small. Lots of doctors, lawyers, scientists, really, really smart people as the parents of us kids. Really amazing teachers. One of my teachers has gone on to win, go to some of these crazy, high echelon, schools for smart people in the whole world. I mean, it was just a very high level of intensity, of pressure. I was surrounded by I'm a pretty smart person, but I was very average, very, very average there. And I'm not trying to diminish myself. I think that's a fair assessment. And I did great. I think I graduated with a B+ average. But kind of had to kill myself to get a B plus, right? If I had gone to a less crazy school, I probably would have like been one of those, people that felt like a high achiever and didn't have to work so hard at it. But because I was in this environment, it was really hard for me. It was really hard for me emotionally. It was really hard for me academically. And then the pressure, not from my parents, but from the school, the system, was a lot. It was a lot for all of us, but we didn't know the water that we swam in, right? Like we didn't know as kids, like we knew it was pressury, but we didn't know how pressury it was until we went to college. And honestly, college was like a breeze for me. Most people have the reverse, right? They get to college and they don't know how to study and like it's really hard. Oh my God, I breezed through college. Like not just to give you that perspective. And so all that is to say, that also then created belief systems for me that you probably also share or have seen in others, that of what hard work looks like and how you are, how you must be in order to survive. I was not actually trying to be the A+ best student, right? I was actually very aware that I don't know that I was aware that I was a creative person, but I knew that the system didn't fit me exactly. I just thought there was something wrong with me, right? Like I thought maybe that meant I wasn't driven or I wasn't smart enough or I wasn't whatever enough, right? But the context was I was in a system that did not fit me, right? Did not fit my style. Creative type in a type A world, however you want to look at that. And so, honestly, the first time I burnt out was right out of high school, as a result of that. And so I share that to just give you an example, but also because that was what then led me, the beliefs that I had about work and how to make, I thought that like everything was going to be that hard, right? Even though I had that experience in college, I thought everything else was going to be hard. And so I then took careers and jobs that included that high level pressure as well, right? I went to places where I was also, as a smart person, I was still pretty average in terms of performance, in terms of intelligence, in terms of my capabilities. And I continued to put myself in positions that A, didn't quite fit my genius and my skills, but B, had a lot of that pressure in there because we just choose what's familiar, right? I had no earthly idea that I was doing that. And so that's just a little bit of context that I wanted to share in terms of some of the ways, because I always feel like it's easier to share my story than speak generically about things. Okay. And then let me check the chat before I move on, because I'm going to then talk a little bit more about society and then what my answers to the questions are, what I wish someone told me about being a high achiever. There was one more thing I wanted to say about that. Yeah, and so I guess I also want to say I was also surrounded by people who were high achievers, who probably had perfectionist tendencies, right? Very driven, very motivated by the grade or the accolades or the Ivy League school they wanted to get into or the SAT scores or the being the valedictorian or whatever that was. That was never what drove me. Like I was never driven or motivated by those things. Some people are, and again, that doesn't matter which end of things whether you resonate with my side of the story or whether you're a recovering perfectionist or you're still a perfectionist, no judgment there. Like the point is these same societal beliefs created these things in all of us. It's just about, kind of which way you came into the system, for lack of a better word. And so I just think that's important to share. I hope that makes sense. Let me know. Yeah, okay. I've been working on thinking differently and studying what it takes to inspire people to stop doing and start thinking different. So I was curious about what you thought. Yes, love it. Love it, love it, love it. And that's partly why I called these Think Differently, because I didn't want to imply that I was going to teach you how to run a business, right? Like, of course, these are things, but this is more the way that I think about business, or the way that I would ask you, the way that I would coach you, frankly, if you were one of my clients around this topic. And because I work with people one-on-one, because I see I see business as needing to be uniquely customized to the person, the business, the genius, the season you're in, the customers that you serve, the business model that you're in, right? The best way I know to do that is to say, how can you think differently about this topic or this aspect of your business? Because when we can see things differently, to your point, then we can do differently. But otherwise, we don't even realize that what we're doing isn't getting us our results that we want, right? Or we don't really even realize, we're not even conscious of our actions. Or because we see it differently, if I can help you to think differently, even at a tiny little level, then not only can you take a different action, but you can take an action that's actually going to get you what you want and where you want to go, instead of, hold on, I'm just going to let this person in. Then you can take an action that's actually going to get you where you want, right? And sometimes we can't see that because of the way that we're thinking, which is back to why I always approach things from a strategy and a mindset perspective. So yeah, thank you for saying that. Wondering about high achievement as an empath? Ooh, yeah. HSP and creative. Yeah, and as an empath and highly sensitive person, you better believe that some of the stress that I was feeling when I was in corporate and when I was in high school was just picking up the stress of other people around me, right? It was a high pressure system and I was floating all around in that. Marinating in it, as one might say. I was marinating in that energy. Yeah, and I think it is interesting. I do think from the perspective of high achievement, if you are an empath, if you're a highly sensitive person, I'm going to leave those separate from being a creative, because not everybody resonates with or identifies with all of those. But I think for empaths and highly sensitives, it really is important to be aware of the water you're swimming in, be aware of the information you're consuming, whether it's like TV and, I almost said radio, TV and social media, or, even just going to like an in-person networking event or something. It's important to know that about yourself, so that you're not picking up on other people's energies or picking up on other people's pressure and stress. And yes, we're definitely going to talk about this from the perspective of being creative. This one caught my attention, and then I benched your stuff. You're so much fun. Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know how I feel about the term high achiever, but I think it depends on high achiever as assigned to you, to your label, or whether you think of yourself as one. 100%. Two different things. Yes, 100%. 85, bigger than my graduating class. I had 37. Oh my God, that's even smaller than mine. I don't know how you did it. I bet you were creative about that achievement. Honestly, thank you for saying that. And I think I was. I had to find my own way through that. Having connections coming back. Okay, fine, no problem. High achievement meaning well organized, intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic. Yeah. All the things, right? High achievement. And actually, like, I might just jump to this because so much of what I want you to know is like, screw high achievement, screw like what everybody else is telling you to do or to be or to decide that you need to achieve. And we need to define that for ourselves. Yeah, I've never turned myself a high achiever, but I've achieved a lot. I don't know what it means at this time in my life. And again, like, so often the reason that we have a distorted concept of what high achievement is we're defining it by society, right? And so here's a couple of examples, right? When I was a creative kid, I thought high achievers were people who agreed with the hustle culture, and so I was like, that's annoying, right? Or I thought they were famous people, right? So like the 1%, right? So if you want to try to strive to be in the 1%, to me, as a creative, like, that just sounds like a lot of work I'm not interested in. Because to your point, that's not my intrinsic motivation. That's not how I'm intrinsically motivated. Some people are motivated by that, like by the challenge, by the thing that you achieve. And that's not wrong. It's just we need to know how we're motivated. So yeah, it's like there's like the famous people or like the people who cure cancer or like the Bill Gates of the world, right? As opposed to how we define that for ourselves. Okay. So let me just check my notes so I'm not like going too off topic, because I could also just jump into these comments. Let's see. So yeah, obviously, where I'm this, I don't need to tell you this, living in a capitalist society, and this isn't a ding on capitalism, it has its positives and negatives, but I think one of the negatives is that over the years, as it's evolved, we've come out a highly stressed out society, with productivity winning out over everything else. I don't think productivity on itself, by itself, is a bad thing, but when it's the top priority, right, for a lot of organizations, and that bleeds into society, and our beliefs in the way that we see work or just anything that we are here to do, it gets really wonky really fast. It creates perfectionists, and you are perfect just the way you are, but also you will never be perfect. You know what I mean? And so I think that perfectionistic, a lot of my clients are perfectionists, or recovering perfectionists, because of these belief systems that society gave to us directly, but also really indirectly. And I want to really speak to that for just a quick second, because as I was thinking this through, I'm very clear. I had some high achieving parents, but they never, like, rarely directly like put pressure on me. And so what is so interesting to me is, had they done that, it would have been really obvious to me that I could blame my parents for that perspective, right? But they didn't. Most of the pressure I received was indirect, was ingrained in society's beliefs, was ingrained in the culture of how things are done at school, at work, in terms of just how this academic structure is set up in terms of getting into college. And it's so much harder now for kids. I mean, I was in college like 25 years ago. So maybe more. So I think, again, this is, as we say, the fish doesn't know it swims in water. You probably do know you swim in this water, but this is just the water we're swimming in. It is everywhere, especially if you're a creative and you feel that you don't fit in this society, right? Or if you are a highly sensitive person, as you said, like, you know, you're swimming in this water, whether you want to or not, you're going to absorb some of it, right? Or a lot of it. And so what I wish, just back to today's topic, what I wish someone told me about being a high achiever, there's a couple of things. Number one, I wish someone told me that being a high achiever was not the same thing as being an overachiever. I did another Think Differently recently about over-delivering to your clients and giving them amazing, amazing service, and how that's very different and hard for my friends who have burnt out or who have been overgivers their whole life. They don't want to hear me say that, because then that just perpetuates them overgiving, right? But the healthy way to operate as a business owner, no, we don't ever want to overgive. We always need to have boundaries. We always need to take care of ourselves first, right? All of those things. But when we are in a healthy space, ideally we are giving our clients the very best that we can and exceeding their expectations, because one, it feels really good to serve from that neutral, healthy perspective. Two, it feels really good for them. And three, it's really obviously good for business. And four, you achieve your impact in the world, right? So same, high achiever, let's just redefine that right now. Can it just be healthy? And I'm going to give you a couple other ways to define it and ask you to take away and define it for yourself. But what I wish someone had told me, I just always confused the two or conflated the two. I literally, like, if you had said, if you had asked me, like, what's the difference between a high achiever and an overachiever, I would have been able to tell you the truth, right? I just never really thought about it. I just always thought high achievement, it's overachievement, it's no boundaries, it's overdoing, it's too much, it's all the pressure, it's all the things I don't want to be a part of. It's all the things that burned me out, right? And so that's the first piece is the answer to the question of what I wish somebody had told me. I wish somebody showed me that I was viewing high achievement as overachievement, as unhealthy boundaries, as a recipe for burnout, because that's exactly what I experienced. And then I also wish, and I kind of the remedy for this, I also wish that someone told me how effing important it is to define success for yourself. Period, end of sentence. If you hear nothing else from me today, please do this. For yourself. Define it for yourself. Maybe not by yourself, but like of yourself, right? Meaning, it really doesn't matter what society's perspective of a successful business owner is, right? It really doesn't matter what the online space is preaching. It really doesn't matter how much money you make. It really doesn't matter anything. What matters is the definitions that you set for yourself. And I find so often that, as simple as that sounds, something that I have to do, even though this is what I preach, this is what I help my clients do all day, every day, sometimes what I have to really do is go back to, hold on a minute. Like, even for Think Differently, right? I just started doing these, I don't know, a month ago. I had to go back and redefine what success is. Is it about how many people show up? Is it about how many people convert from this and become clients? Is it about how I feel about it when I deliver this to you? Is it about this back and forth, right? All of these things, by the way, are really great and part of my goals here, but defining that is really important for myself as a business owner, smart business. But it's the only way I'm going to keep my mindset sane. If I'm just running after any old achievement, right? Or any old metric that any old business owner might apply to my offering, it's got to be defined for me. It's got to be defined for my business right now, what my business needs right now. And I could be defining success. I could be running these for the next year, and every quarter success might be defined differently based on what my business needs. So please define success for yourself, right? For me, success in this business is doing work that I enjoy. And for me, that's one-on-one client calls. That's my favorite thing to do. So I've built my whole business around that, right? And I've even built my funnel around that, right? One of the first things I said at the beginning of this call is that I have a free mini coaching session available. It's one per person, by the way. I'm not an overgiver. I'm an over-deliverer. Right? So I offer a free mini coaching session to people if you've never worked with me before, or if you've never had one of those. That's really, for me, that's really easy for me to offer, because all I want to do is be on one-on-one coaching calls all day. Like, that's all I want to do. So I've just built my sales strategy around that too, right? It makes it so much easier for me to show up. It makes it so much easier for me to succeed. It makes me want to keep going to work every day. That's one of the million reasons why I set my business up the way I have, right? But that's just because I defined it for myself. Don't you go copy that unless that's also how you define it. So your number one homework assignment for today is to go define it for yourself. And the other thing I want to say, because I think some people think they've defined it for themselves, and you have. But when's the last time you revisited that? Do you have it written down? And I don't mean like 90-day goals, those are great and all. I mean like this same thing of like, I want to be on as many one-on-one calls as feels good to me in a given day or week, because that's just what lights me up. That hasn't changed in 7 years in business, really. Maybe the number of how many I want in a given month or week has changed, right? But like, that hasn't changed. And I think that's really important to just get really, really clear, because A, if you haven't defined it for yourself, it might be part of the source of why business doesn't feel good to you. But B, if you have defined it for yourself, I find a lot of times with a client, when I ask them these questions and we really dive in, they've already defined it. They just didn't like acknowledge it as having been defined and having been an important decision. And that means then that they forget to go back to that, right? On their worst days. They forget to go back to that as a top priority when they're setting goals or setting strategic priorities in the business, to go, wait, what does even success look like here? Oh, wait, this is what we want. Okay, great. Now we know some options within our strategy or within our 90-day plan to get us more of that, right? Does that make sense? And then in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to try to like address this for women everywhere, which is kind of hilarious. This is such a big topic. Okay. It's productive and it could be subtracting and not out. Preach. I don't know what I was saying when you said preach, but thank you. I was on a rant. Custom and individualized, that's my jam. 100%. 100%. Yeah. Okay, so the other thing that I wish, like, I'm going to try really hard not to cry when I say this. The other thing that I wish someone had told me about being a high achiever is that I wish they told me it was something to aspire to. And then I'm going to sub-answer that. I especially wish someone told me it was something to aspire to as a woman. Because if somebody had gone, if I could talk to my 16-year-old self, for example, and let her know that she actually gets to define success for herself, and she already probably was. She just wasn't aware of it. And that's something that women get to have in life. I still might have gone through, I don't believe in regrets and changing paths, but I still probably would have gone through the same experiences and made the same career choices. But I bet you I would have been a lot less stressed out. I bet you I would have felt a lot more in my power. I bet you I would have felt a lot more in control of my own life. I bet you I would have been a lot happier. And I bet you I would have maybe made some decisions a little quicker. Because as women, I'm just going to tell you I'm 48 years old to give you perspective on my generation, right? If you're in your 20s and 30s, you probably have less of this, my hope. It's less of the water that you're swimming in. And again, I want to go back. I was privileged. I was set up for success from the beginning. I went to a private school where all they were doing was trying to help us get into good colleges so that we could have good careers, right? And that was for men and women. I never once felt like that organization, that my private school was only favoring men. I didn't feel that at all. Now, maybe other women did, other girls might have in high schools at my age, but I just didn't in my example. But because of the water that we're swimming in, and because I'm a woman, and at the time, I actually chose later that I didn't want to have children, but at the time I thought I wanted to have kids. And I did not ever see a path for how in the world I was going to do all this work, right? Because I thought that if this is how high school was, this is how all work is, right? How in the world was I going to do that and have kids and be remotely good at either one? And so that affected my career choices. And that's not wrong. How do I want to say that? It wasn't wrong for me to choose that. That was the society, that was the world I was living in, right? It's still the world we're living in. But if I compare myself to a boy that I grew up with, he never once had to think about that stuff. And once he got out of the bubble of our precious, that I'm so grateful for, by the way, it came with all that pressure and stress, but it's the best education I ever got. And I went to college and I also have a master's degree. And the best education I ever got was from high school. I still use the stuff I learned in high school. I could have done pretty much everything I'm doing now with that. I learned, I will never take it back. But if you just compare a boy that I grew up with that exited the bubble of our precious high school and then went out into the world, he just had opportunities that I didn't have. And the society helped him, right? Even if it was just from a mindset perspective of what's possible. I didn't have a lot of women, very small number of women that I knew growing up that had really successful achieving careers. Period. My mom always worked. But she put us first. And that was very clear in her career decisions. And I love her for it. But again, I limited myself from the beginning with the possibilities that I saw for myself or that I even wanted for myself, because we don't teach girls that it's okay to ask for what they want. We don't teach girls that they can do anything they want enough. We don't teach that enough. I think we're getting there. I really think we're getting there, and I don't want to like go on a rant about like we've come so far just since I was 18. But I want to say let's fucking redefine what a high achiever is and what high achieving women are. It's thriving. It's stepping into your potential. It's being a better version of yourself. And it's defining success for yourself. That's what being a high achiever is. And I talked a lot about potential last week. So if you missed that one, that's a really important piece. And I'm going to bring that one back up again, because I think that when we are operating under our potential and under our own definitions of success, like what we deeply, deeply want out of life and work, I think that's a recipe for depression. I think that's a recipe for making bad decisions. I think that keeps us really in the And so I'm looking at the time, and I promised for 45 minutes and I'm at 46 minutes. So I'm going to wrap it up right here. If you want to stay on, you're welcome to stay and we can keep talking. But I wanted to just say, so what my charge is for you today is you do get to decide whatever you want. To the little girls in you, right? Who need to hear it over and over and over again. You just get to have what you want, but we have to take our power back from those belief systems that were shoved down our throats when we were kids. And as business owners, right, men aren't ashamed to like set up their own rules for success. Like, let's do this. And let's redefine it as something that is us stepping into our potential at this phase, and has nothing to do with anybody else. It frankly has nothing to do with your long-term potential for, like, let's say 10 years from now, her potential is greater, right? Their potential is greater in 10 years, but your potential right now, wherever it is, we're not going to evaluate it against any other barometer other than what it is that you want and where you feel called to go next, or what you feel called to step into. That's being a high achiever. And some of that comes with putting yourself first or putting yourself in the priority list. So my homework assignment for you, please go define and put in writing for yourself, what does success mean to you? And I hope that will be validating. I bet you already know what success means to you, and you could also probably take it up a notch. Maybe today something has been inspired for you. I do think we can redefine high achievement for ourselves and for each other. And you also your second homework assignment is just decide. Because if you decide what you want, that's always and every time going to get you what you want. Because if you decide what you want, then you're most likely going to take that action, right? So what do you want? And then you just get to be so fucking intentional with what you want. And one thing that I want to just add to the conversation is when you decide what you want, when you decide what success is for you, and you write it down and you decide it and you go do all these things, the final piece that I want to, you're charged with today is please make it one of your top 3 priorities. Keep coming back to it. If you don't have 3 priorities, pick 3 priorities. But keep coming back to it. Because if you're deciding that you're going to be a high achiever this year, by your definition alone, and maybe you don't even like the term high achiever, so feel free to pick your own, go ahead and put that down every single day, every single week. You're taking some sort of action towards that 6 to 12 month vision that you have for yourself. Get a coach, get a therapist. Start with a small, easy to manage, 5-minute new habit that will support you in becoming that person. And as a mindset coach, please do mindset work every day. It's a vitamin. It's a mental health vitamin. It's a business vitamin. It's the greatest thing that I do for myself every day. It's the greatest thing that I do for my business every day. It's the greatest thing I do for my relationship every day. It's the greatest thing I do for my community every day. And if you want some help with mindset work, I'm happy to help you with that. and I'm never going to not talk about it. So keep coming back to think differently. Okay, I am going to check the comments here. Let's see. Yes, I know. I saw that. Yes. I wish someone would have told me high achievement didn't have to start with being organized and memorizing stuff. Yeah, that is a very like school-focused, academic-focused thing, but I think we were taught that so early, right? And then there we went. That being a dropout didn't mean I had to be, being a dropout didn't mean I couldn't be intellectual for work 100%. Oh my God, I feel that. I'm gonna cry. I feel that so bad, so much. The fact that I'm here and working as a cook, I don't know, maybe some achievement here, 100%. I know I saw you cooking in the background. Taking calculated risks outside of our, calculated risks, yes, outside our comfort zone and learning from them is achievement, yes. I love that definition. I love that definition. Okay, so whether you're on the replay or whether you're live, please hit reply later today. You're going to get an email from me with the replay. Please hit reply and let me know what you're thinking, right? Let me know what you're deciding. Let me know how you're defining success or achievement for yourself. Let me know what ideas this sparked. As I said, this is such a big topic and I only just scratched the surface. But I would love to have some feedback. And even if it's just here's some of my messy thoughts after today, because that will help me shape the next ones. And it also just helps me understand like what I said and what you got out of it, because maybe I intended one thing and you heard something else, and that's always very helpful for me to hear. Okay, I am going to stop the recording, but if anybody who's live wants to have a little chat, I've still got about 10 minutes if you want to hang out and discuss. I'm available for that. And just thank you so much for being here. Next week, we are having, at this time, we're meeting for Real Connections, which is my networking events. So same time, same Zoom, but different event. And so every fourth Thursday, we have our networking event, but otherwise, all the other Thursdays, unless it's a holiday, I'm gonna be here talking about Think Differently. And I went ahead and set up the events so you can now book them through the end of the year. So if you're like, I just want to have this on my calendar so I can show up when I want to, I generally post the topics like once a month. I really need to get in there and do October's. I haven't done that yet. So again, if you have a topic you want me, I've got a big long list, but that might help me prioritize what comes out for October. But you can always keep signing up for these now through the end of the year. They're here to stay. I'm having the best time with you guys. And if you're looking for a coach and you want to just start the conversation, super no pressure, just book a discovery call. Or you can also, if you've never been coached by me, please take me up on this free mini session. You can use it now or later for any topic that's relevant to your business and mindset right now. And I would love, love, love to support you. So, okay, I'm going to stop the recording. And then if you're live, we can have a little chit chat. Hold on one second. And thanks everybody for joining.